When Mars enters into Aries, the first event that takes place is Mars makes a conjunction with Neptune. Neptune is holding a conviction. It's a conviction that does several things, and that is it dissolves where there's inconsistencies and illusions that interferes with the soul's connection to the status of being. Wherever there's an interference between your first house personification and your soul, that has to be expressed through the assertive actions of your Aries house placement. Neptune is trying to make sure that there is a consistency, that there is a flow between the soul and the body, or soul and embodiment of who we are at the first house. Aries is the house themes and spiritual substance or subject matters that is behind the first house expression, status claim, and jurisdiction. Something could be in the way, rooted in beliefs, fears, shame, guilt, doubt, confusion, cloudiness, and also where we tend to merge with others without boundaries or limitations. And there's confusion because we may have failed to speak up for ourselves or set boundaries. We may have failed to discern the difference between what is my soul reading and what is the programming instilling in my soul, or what is the programming filling me with that sets me out on missions that are not familiar to or rooted in my own faith, my own beliefs, and my own vision. Neptune can do a good job of restoring the soul's conviction that belongs to the identity. There's something that we're supposed to be convicted in our faith about ourselves that animates and clarifies who we are at the first house. You're supposed to feel a particular way. Your soul is supposed to hold a particular conviction in its faith about you being aligned in this lifetime with claiming what that first house status, jurisdiction is supposed to be. And that means there's an estate that comes with that jurisdiction. This goes with the claim of status, the jurisdiction and the estate that goes with the claim of the status of the self first house. When we talk about the estate that goes with the jurisdiction, in which the jurisdiction is the house placement of Aries, okay? That is the proper jurisdiction of your first house, which is your Aries house placement. That context is a proper jurisdiction in this lifetime that you are here to be the warrior at, the initiator, okay? The creator who doesn't take permission. It's also who you are behind the concept of your first house. I am Aries. The estate is the fifth house. So there's an estate that goes with that jurisdiction. That's the fifth house. That estate is being grounded and clarified to a sincere realization that it's not polluted, that it's not exaggerated, and that it's not misled. And that is through Venus' presence in Taurus, which grounds our fifth house connection. So right now, our fifth house is very clear to us. It's very sincere in what we are longing to fulfill and express in our life, because Venus, the astral body, the one who champions and brings glory to the fifth house, is in Taurus, okay? Which aligns our fifth house estate with our value system, our values, what we value and how we perceive, how we determine, how we relate to, and how we procure value, including our self-esteem. What sets the basis of self-esteem that goes with our first house and with the jurisdiction of our Aries house placement. Okay, Taurus. This is what really grounds us. So this relationship between Venus, Mars, and Neptune activity, it all has to go together. Now, Neptune and Mars is also going to be sextile to Uranus, which is at the last degree. Mars is building up to that last degree in Pisces just before it enters Aries. And the sextile with Uranus is Mars is getting a read from Uranus to get accuracy, to get divine revelation in what patterns have to change. What are my new instructions? What are my new marching orders toward the future that keeps me as a loyal warrior or soldier that maintains a particular pattern, that maintains a particular line of boundary, that maintains an assertive nature on particular things, that preserves the purpose that I'm here for, that preserves the long-term trajectory of my soul's journey, that keeps me most authentic, that keeps me most real, that keeps me liberated, that keeps me free from any programming, any infiltration in what I'm manifesting, creating, emoting, or asserting in my reality. Uranus gives the instructions toward authenticity. So Uranus is the one who makes sure that Mars has the marching orders that keeps the first house and the Aries agreement in authenticity. If you notice, this takes place at Pisces, the last degree, because that's where the concept of the self is at. Understand, before that it becomes manifest as a state of being or an actualized claim in the self. Understand. Now, what Mars does when it comes in conjunction with Neptune is Mars becomes the knight of justice, or the personal soldier, the assigned soldier to this the faith mission of the self. Okay, the faith-based mission of the self. So Mars checks in with Neptune, and Neptune says, I've detached the identity from the mind, from the programming, from the corruption. I've detached the identity from all of these things. But there are cords that have to be cut. There are blockages in the way. There are attachments and chains, or there are cycles of futility. There are patterns that are still running that don't need to be running. There are contradictions to this faith or conviction that I have. There are contradictions to what I visualize authentically of myself. There are contradictions to what I have realized in my faith of myself. There are contradictions to what my soul is holding as the life and the essence of my identity. And Neptune is getting Mars to act as an assertive and decisive what do you say, sniper in a sense, to take certain shots or actions that eliminates blockages, that eliminates certain inappropriate attachments or terms, that changes inappropriate patterns, that severs inappropriate bonds and connections, that also cancels and rescinds contracts, assumptions, and judgments upon the self that's in the way of the identity. So anything that's in the way, in the pathway of that faith being embodied at Aries, the faith being embodied at the first house, Mars is going to take an action, a faith-based action. Mars is going to assert a faith or faith-based action that champions the conviction of the soul. The outcome will be a clear pathway to your fifth house activation, a clear pathway to your first house activation, a clear pathway to your to your Aries house fulfillment and initiation. Okay, so this clears the pathway for all of these different points of the self to be en route to full expression, full intensification, and full claim in your life. So this is status, claim, and correction. Mars is making corrective actions based on faith, something that only the soul can know and understand. Okay, this is higher frequency. This is spiritual warfare. In this spiritual warfare, faith would have us to make decisions that may contradict logic, that may go against logic, that may not seem reasonable in a logical sense. But this is what the soul is holding. This is what the soul must do. This is an action that the soul must take. And it's been burdening us for a long time. It's been weighing us down for a long time. And if everything was clear to you, like you were certain of what's going to happen after this decision, what's going to happen after this action, where am I going to end up, what's going to be the outcome? If you had all these answers, if you had all of that control that you're looking for, it wouldn't be faith. When it comes to Neptune, you close your eyes. Look at me, like zoom in on the camera. Wait, let me zoom in. When you close, you ever see somebody talk to you and they close their, I do this a lot, and you close your eyes like this? When you close your eyes, you're searching your soul. You're going into your intuition. You're going into your clairvoyance. You're going into the unseen powers of yourself. You're closing this and you're opening that. You're opening this and you're opening that, and you're opening your heart center when you close your eyes. That's Neptune. It is to close your eyes and determine, to see, to feel, to know. Not knowledge, not information, not logic, not cognitive value or information. All of these are means of control, not faith. This is entirely faith-based. This is Mars taking action 100% on faith, vision, belief, and conviction. Okay? So knowledge and information cannot be a part of this decision making. Mars had to bask in Pisces for long enough to disarm himself and learn how to fight in the spirit. Because Mars forgets as he goes around his 2-year transit, he can forget. So when Mars goes in Pisces, he remembers how, it's like a soldier who, Okay, like say you're gonna do Cold War training. You know, you're gonna be, I don't know, going to war in the Atlantic or something like that. You know, some winter terrain, and you have to, you have to get Cold War training. You know, you have to learn how to move through the snow, through the ice, and survive through very cold conditions. Mars had to go in Pisces to learn to get the proper training of how to accomplish what it is that Neptune is going to require him to do. Understand that. This starts a 2-year cycle. Always remember that the 2-year cycle includes an overlap of the North and South Node context. The North and South Node context changes in culture by Mars every 2 years when Mars goes retrograde. When Mars goes retrograde, he changes the cultural context. For example, 2022-23 overlap, that context was a polarization of divine masculine and divine feminine through retrograde Gemini. The context we're still in is the inner child, the connection and reverence for the inner child, also for the domestic, for family, for our ancestral convictions, our relationships with our mothers. This retrograde of Cancer Mars is the corrective course of what feminism did to us, and also of what corporate greed and attachment and fear-based living did to us. Okay, so that's corporate obsession and fear-based living, worshiping jobs, worshiping careers, worshiping money, worshiping status through career. This, of course, was consistent with the context of Pluto finishing Capricorn, okay? And also South Node Libra collapse, which was a collapse of feminism. So it's the only way to correct both feminism and corporate greed, which manifested the same thing. Detach yourself from Cancer in order to champion the heights of Capricorn and corporate outcome, success, and status, okay? I talk about that a lot. I'm not going to go into that right now. I think I emphasize that enough. So anyway, this is a faith-based decision that's coming up with Mars. Mars is giving you the boldness, the assertiveness, the strength, the courage to make a very, very difficult decision that requires a great deal of faith that you've channeled, over a long period of time. And it's going to clear the way for your life to become more authentic, that reaches through to the soul, not just the mind or just, going through the motions. This is at the soul level, so your life will make sense, and so it will be fulfilling at the soul level. Understand? That's what's most important and valuable about this decision that Mars is going to make. Now, Mars is also going to be square to Jupiter. Okay, he's going to step into the square energy of Jupiter in Cancer. This square can cause an overconfidence. It can cause exuberance. It can cause being overly optimistic. But at the same time, what it does is, think of it like this. Aries, we know, is the divine child, okay? The divine child has the mother in square, which is Cancer, and it has the father in square, which is Capricorn. The child has to look to the mother's eyes, Cancer. He also has to look to the father's eyes, Capricorn. The child, when he makes that decision, that faith-based decision of Neptune through Mars, he's taken a brave action that he's never taken before. But his soul, it has him convicted to take this faith-based action that most likely is going to look like a sacrifice, a change that only faith could have him to successfully change the course of in his life. And the divine child is looking at the mother for emotional security and assurance. And the divine child is looking at the father for strength. Okay? The divine child looks to the father to remember what accountability must be included, how to draw upon strength and grit, determination, discipline, and discipline, and what's that word? Temperance, and also temperance. To sacrifice what's necessary to hold this decision, and also to stay in a long-term context with this decision so that it is responsible and not just impulsive. The child looks to the mother, to understand what care is required behind this, what maintenance to the self is required behind this, what upholds the moral commitment behind my decision. Also, what authorizes my decision as being a righteous decision, or a decision that's in the best interest of the inner child, the best interest of what it means to honor and respect and preserve the self. This includes, where are my morals at in this? What limitations should be, observed in this, and what is best for me in this. Understand? So that's the square, between the mother's authority and the father's authority on the axis of Cancer and Capricorn. All right? And so, just in case someone might be confused, I thought father was Leo. Leo has to do with the expression of the child that he gains from the confidence of the father. Okay? So that's that particular context. When it comes to Capricorn, it's more of drawing strength toward discipline, accountability, responsibility, and in the long-term trajectory that avoids karma in the decisions that you're making, avoiding karma in the decision that you're making. Understand that. This is also fair dealing in any type of, contractual decisions that's being made. So anyway, faith-based decision coming up. All right, very important to think about. Get with me behind the scenes. If these are things that may be confusing to you, you need understanding. Get with me behind the scenes so that we can put together some notes. You want to schedule a session with me so these things can be understood, or whatever the case may be in astrology that you would like a greater understanding in.